Hello, welcome back, my dear fellow developers. So today we are going to continue our journey in which we will discuss about various questions that are asked to OmniStudio developers or commonly asked questions which most of the person ask and developers should know. So far in this series, we have discussed many topics like what is Velocity, what is OmniStudio, about its architecture, and various experience layer tools, mainly FlexCard and OmniScripts. We have also discussed about the best practices of both FlexCard and OmniScript, and we also have discussed a very famous question like what is the difference between OmniScripts and flows. If you want a refresher, you can have a look at my playlist. I will attach the link as a refresher. So for now, let's move forward. So we have learned that there are two tools in experience layer, namely FlexCard and OmniScript, which is basically used to handle that data, or you can say manage the user experience layer in which the user can interact or user can see the 360 view, basically a summarized view of the key components which they are working on. Since they are UI component, that means there should be an interoperability, means we can embed one component to other component, and it is possible in OmniStudio. We can embed FlexCard into our OmniScript, and we can do the vice versa also. So now the major question that comes, if we can embed it, then how can the data traversing can happen in between the two components? And our next most commonly asked question is related to that only. So let's see what is our next question. So our next question is like how we can pass the data from LWC OmniScript to FlexCard. So basically there are three ways by which we can achieve this. We can pass the set of records, you can pass the record ID, and we can pass the parent object. So when we want to pass a parent set of pass a set of record ID, we have to add our custom lightning web component element from our build to our canvas. So now there we need to pass the value as a key value pair. As you can see in the screenshot, we have to pass the parent data as true and records as object name. Basically, object name is the name of the node which will contain the set of record. So this is how the set of records can be passed from OmniScript to FlexCard. Second way is the pass of record ID. Here we will do the same. We will drag the Lightning Web Component element from build to canvas, and in key value pair we'll pass the record ID and context ID. Just keep a note that all the property names like record ID, records, and parent data, they are case sensitive. So it has to be written the exactly same way, else the data traversal will not be happening. Here in property source, we are passing context ID. Context ID is nothing but it is a reserved keyword for OmniStudio platform. Basically, it is used to hold the record ID, how the record IDs are stored in our Salesforce platform. So from wherever the OmniScript has been fired, let's suppose it is fired from account page, so it will store the account record ID and context ID. So that has to be passed. Now the third parameter by which we can pass the data is like that we can pass the parent object. Here also we have to drag the component, but here we have to pass an additional key value pair, which is parent attribute. And then in object name, we have to pass the node name of the node which contains the data. So now once we do this, so in FlexCard, we can pass the value as parent.node name, and then it can access the data as per needed. So for now, you can, if you want, you can pause the video and you can go to a description. Here it is explained very clearly that what all things needs to be done and how the things will be happening. I will also attach this link of the Salesforce documentation where they have briefly explained how the data traversing can be happened from OmniScript to FlexCard. So yeah, that's pretty much. And now let's move forward. Since we saw now how the data will traversing from OmniScript to FlexCard, now let's see how the vice versa can happen. So there are two ways by which we can pass the data from FlexCard to OmniScript. So to pass the data from FlexCard to OmniScript, since FlexCard is just an UI container, it cannot process any information. So there is a special element named as action element which needs to be used if we want to fire an OmniScript. So what we need to do, we need to take the action element from build panel to canvas, and then you have to mark the action type as OmniScript. As you can see in the screenshot, this is the configuration. We have selected the OmniScript name, and then we have selected a type, and this is the special note to mention point, like what is the context ID which will pass. As we discussed in our previous slide, that context ID is a reserved keyword which is stored in OmniScript or used by OmniScript. Here in FlexCard we have record ID, which does the same thing what context ID does for OmniScript. This also stores the record ID, or which from where the OmniScript needs the data, or from where the FlexCard has been embedded. So this is how the data can be traversed from FlexCard to OmniScript. Then we got a new way which got released in our recent releases, that update OmniScript action type. So what it does, here we are opening the OmniScript in first way, means with the help of link where the processing can happen. And in update OmniScript, we will be updating the certain node. So here, once we choose the action type as update OmniScript, we will get an additional parameters named as input parameter, where we need to pass the name of the node of the OmniScript, which is asset over here, and then the value as record. So what it will do, it will update the specific node of that OmniScript. So these are the two ways by which an OmniScript can be accessed, or the data can be traversed from FlexCard to OmniScript. And we discussed both, like how the data traversing can be happening from both the UI components. So that's it for today's session, and hopefully everything is clear. If not, then please drop down a comment with your queries. I will be happy to answer your queries. So that's it for today, and we will continue our journey with the new questions tomorrow. Thank you.